At 04:15 hours on September 27, 1943, Oberfeldwebel Klaus Richter crouched in forest darkness 18 kilometers northeast of Minsk, watching 400 partisans through binoculars who should have been preparing to fight but were too sick to stand. The partisan camp spread across a clearing 200 meters downslope. 40 makeshift shelters. Cook fires burned low. But something was wrong. No sentries patrolled the perimeter. No guards challenged movement. The only sounds rising through the pine trees were moaning, retching, desperate voices calling for water in Russian. Richter checked his watch. 26 hours since the partisans raided the convoy, exactly on schedule. Behind him, 180 Wehrmacht soldiers waited in assault formation. Major Friedrich Vogel moved up beside Richter, his breath forming clouds in the September cold. "Are you certain they're incapacitated?" Vogel whispered. Richter kept his binoculars steady. Botulism symptoms manifest between 24 and 36 hours after consumption. They ate the contaminated meat yesterday afternoon. They're helpless. Vogel studied the camp. A partisan stumbled from one shelter, made it 3 meters, collapsed. Nobody came to help him. "If you're wrong," Vogel said, "we're walking into prepared positions." "I'm not wrong, sir." Vogel raised his hand. The signal passed down the line. 180 soldiers rose from concealment and began advancing through the forest. Rifles ready, but safeties engaged. This wouldn't be a battle. This would be collection. Not a single shot would be fired in the next 40 minutes. The partisan crisis in Belarus. By September 1943, the German Army Group Center controlled, on paper, 200,000 square kilometers of occupied Soviet territory in Belarus and Western Russia. The reality was different. Soviet partisan brigades controlled 60% of the rear areas. 150,000 partisan fighters operated behind German lines. They destroyed supply convoys, ambushed stragglers, cut communication cables, burned fuel depots. They made the occupation untenable. The numbers told a brutal story. Between June and September 1943, German forces conducted 47 major anti-partisan operations. They committed battalion and regiment strength units. They employed artillery, aircraft, armored vehicles. They suffered 2,800 casualties. Killed or captured 4,100 partisans. But partisan strength increased by 3,200 fighters during the same period. Recruitment outpaced losses. For every partisan killed, the Soviets recruited 2 more from villages, from escaped prisoners, from Red Army remnants cut off during 1941. The mathematics were unsustainable. Every German soldier assigned to rear area security was a soldier not fighting at the front line. The Kursk offensive had just failed. The Red Army was pushing west. Germany needed every combat soldier forward, not hunting partisans through Belarusian forests. Partisan tactics made traditional military operations ineffective. They maintained early warning networks through village informants. German columns were reported the moment they left their bases. Partisans scattered before contact, reformed after Germans withdrew. When Germans did locate partisan camps, they found them empty 90% of the time. The remaining 10% resulted in ambushes. German casualties averaged 12% per operation. Partisan casualties averaged 8%. The defenders were losing. Standard German anti-partisan doctrine followed predictable patterns. Battalion strength sweep operations through suspected partisan zones. Village searches, interrogations, reprisal actions against communities suspected of supporting partisans. Captured partisans faced immediate execution or deportation to labor camps. The methods produced minimal intelligence because partisans destroyed documents before capture. Leadership always escaped. The cycle repeated endlessly with identical results. The problem wasn't German tactical competence. The problem was fighting an enemy who controlled the terrain, enjoyed population support, and could choose when and where to engage. Every military advantage the Wehrmacht possessed, armor, artillery, air support, meant nothing in dense forest against an enemy who simply disappeared. Klaus Richter, the quartermaster. Who understood hunger, Oberfeldwebel Klaus Richter was 34 years old. Staff sergeant in the Wehrmacht Supply Corps, assigned to Kampfgruppe von Gotberg, rear area security operations, Minsk region. He'd been in Russia since June 1941, Operation Barbarossa's opening days. Watched the Wehrmacht advance victoriously, watched it bog down, watched it start losing. Before the war, Richter managed food distribution for an agricultural cooperative in Bavaria. He understood supply chains the way infantry officers understood flanking maneuvers. Food preservation, storage requirements, spoilage patterns, transportation logistics. His world was numbers and tonnage and delivery schedules. His family, wife Anna, daughter aged 7, son aged 4, lived in Munich. He received letters irregularly, censored snippets of domestic life. Anna wrote about rationing, about air raid drills, about the children asking when Papa would come home. Richter had no answer to that question. Unlike combat soldiers who saw partisans as military targets, Richter saw them as logistics problems. He managed the Wehrmacht supply depot outside Minsk. 2,300 tons of rations moved through his warehouse monthly. He tracked every convoy, noted every raid, built spreadsheets of partisan activity patterns. The data revealed something obvious. 80% of partisan raids targeted food supplies. Only 20% targeted weapons, ammunition. Partisans were starving. Soviet supply drops were insufficient. Intelligence estimates suggested 200 tons of supplies monthly for 150,000 partisan fighters. That was 1.3 kilograms per fighter per month. Starvation rations. Richter kept a journal. Observations, calculations, analysis. August 1943 entry. They fight because they're hungry. We can't shoot hunger. He'd lost 14 men from his supply unit to partisan ambushes. One was Gefreiter Hans Weber, 19 years old, killed August 3rd when his convoy was ambushed near Logoisk. The convoy carried bread, just bread, 6 trucks of flour and baked goods heading to forward positions. Partisans killed 4 Germans, wounded 8, stole 3 trucks. For bread. Richter attended Weber's funeral, watched the boy's personal effects packed for shipment home. 3 letters from Weber's mother. One asked about his health, one sent cookies, one asked if he was eating enough. Richter wrote the death notification letter that evening, sat at his desk with regulation condolence forms. It is my duty to inform you that your son, Gefreiter Hans Weber, was killed in action on 30 August 1943 while performing his duties with honor and courage for the fatherland. The words felt empty. Weber died protecting bread from starving people. The tactical absurdity of it gnawed at Richter. That night, he started thinking differently about partisan raids. The discovery. September 4th, 1943. Partisan raid on a German supply column near Logoisk. 8 trucks attacked, 6 stolen. But the partisans ignored 2 trucks carrying 9mm ammunition. Took only trucks loaded with food. The convoy commander reported to Richter the next morning. They let us drive away with ammunition, but stole every can of meat. Richter asked the obvious question. Why do they always take food first? The commander shrugged. They're bandits, undisciplined. Richter saw different mathematics. They're starving, and starving men make predictable choices. 7 days later, everything changed. September 11th, 1943, a shipment arrived at Richter's depot. 3,200 cans of preserved pork. Reserve stocks transferred from Poland. The cans came off the truck in wooden crates. Standard Wehrmacht supply packaging. But Richter noticed something immediately. The cans were bulging. Not dramatically, just slightly. The metal stressed. The seals compromised. He pulled one can from the crate, held it up to the light. The top bulged maybe 3 millimeters. He opened it with a P-38 can opener. The smell hit him first. Sour. Not the clean odor of preserved pork. Not obviously rotten either. Just off. The meat inside looked edible. Color was wrong, slightly gray instead of pink, but nothing that would make you refuse it if you were hungry enough. He checked the temperature logs from transport. The shipment had reached 28 degrees Celsius for 6 days during rail transfer. Sufficient for bacterial growth, insufficient for complete spoilage. Standard procedure was clear. Regulation 47B. Destroy compromised rations immediately. Method: incineration or burial. Documentation: file waste report. Replacement: requisition new supplies through normal channels. Timeline: approximately 3 weeks. Richter did the mathematics. 3,200 cans, 400 grams per can, 1,280 kilograms of meat. Replacement cost: 2,400 Reichsmarks. Replacement time: 21 days. His unit's current ration status: 14 days until shortage. His responsibility: feed 840 German soldiers adequately. He stood in the warehouse holding that bulging can, and something connected in his brain. He thought about partisan raids, about how they always took food, about how they couldn't afford to be selective about food quality when starvation was the alternative. He thought about what spoiled meat does to the human digestive system. Not fatal. Military rations rarely carried lethal bacterial loads, just incapacitating. 24 to 48 hours of severe gastrointestinal distress, dehydration, muscle weakness, complete inability to stand or fight. The idea formed slowly, not a flash of inspiration, more like watching pieces arrange themselves into pattern. What if these spoiled rations weren't destroyed? What if they were weaponized? Stage a convoy raid. Make it look real. Load trucks exclusively with spoiled rations. Let partisans ambush successfully. Let them take the prize back to their camps. They distribute food to the entire unit. Everyone eats. 12 hours later, everyone is sick. German forces sweep the camp while every partisan is too incapacitated to resist. 0 German casualties, 0 partisan deaths, complete capture, weapons intact, documents intact, leadership intact. Richter set the can down and walked to his office, sat at his desk, pulled out paper and began writing. Not orders, a proposal. 4 pages. Title: Non-lethal incapacitation of partisan formations through controlled food contamination. He detailed the staging method. Timing calculations, sweep operation coordination, cost analysis, 6 trucks plus 1,280 kilograms, spoiled rations versus battalion operation with predicted 15% casualties, risk assessment, minimal German exposure, expected outcome, 300 plus partisan captures with intelligence materials intact. He considered the ethics as he wrote. These partisans were enemy combatants. They killed German soldiers. But using poisoned food felt dishonorable. His compromise: this wasn't poisoned food. This was spoiled food. Food that had contaminated through storage negligence, not deliberate chemical addition. could happen naturally to any military supply shipment. The distinction mattered to Richter, even if it wouldn't matter to the partisans eating it. Spoiled food caused temporary illness, not death. That was the critical calculation. He wasn't proposing to kill them, just incapacitate them long enough for capture. The morality remained gray, but crossed no absolute lines. He signed the document, submitted it to Major Friedrich Vogel, Kampfgruppe von Gottberg operations officer. Date, September 12, 1943. Response time, 36 hours. Richter didn't sleep well those 36 hours. He kept seeing Weber's mother's letters, kept thinking about hungry men eating meat that would make them violently ill, kept calculating acceptable risk with other people's lives. The mathematics justified the method. The instinct said it was dishonorable. Both things felt true simultaneously. September 14th, Vogel called him to headquarters. Time to find out if desperation could become doctrine. September 14th, 1943, 0900 hours. Kampfgruppe von Gottberg headquarters, requisitioned factory building on Minsk's eastern outskirts. Major Friedrich Vogel sat behind a desk covered in operational maps and casualty reports. He'd read Richter's proposal twice, called Richter to his office. 3 other officers present: Hauptmann Steiner, Intelligence; Oberleutnant Krebs, Operations; Lieutenant Hoffmann, Medical Services. Richter stood at attention. Vogel held the 4-page proposal like it might contaminate his hands. "You want to deliberately feed enemy forces," Vogel said. Not a question. Statement of absurdity. "Spoiled food, sir. There's a difference." Steiner leaned forward. "And if they don't take the bait? If they suspect contamination? Then we've sacrificed 6 trucks and spoiled rations we'd destroy anyway, sir. The operational cost is minimal." Krebs tapped the casualty statistics Richter had included. "And if they do take it, but detect the spoilage before eating? Then we've revealed our method and gained nothing." Richter had expected these questions. "The spoilage is subtle, sir, not obvious. The meat smells slightly off, but looks edible. They're starving. I've tracked partisan food supplies for 8 months. They're consuming an estimated 1,000 calories daily. Starvation threshold is 1,200. They won't test captured food. They'll eat it immediately." Hoffman spoke for the first time. "What's the lethality risk?" "Botulism from improperly preserved meat is rarely fatal in healthy adults, sir. Medical literature suggests mortality rate under 2% for non-immunocompromised individuals. Symptoms include severe gastrointestinal distress, dehydration, muscle weakness. Duration 36 to 72 hours, full recovery expected. You're proposing we make 400 men violently ill. I'm proposing we incapacitate 400 enemy combatants without killing them or risking our own soldiers, sir." Vogel set down the proposal, picked up a different document. August operational summary. His voice went flat. "Last month, we conducted 3 sweep operations against Partisan Brigade 128. Operation Waldgeist. 480 men committed, 6 days duration, 23 partisans killed, 8 captured, 31 German casualties. Operation Herbstlaub. 520 men, 5 days, 18 partisans killed, 4 captured, 28 German casualties. Operation Donnerschlag. 600 men, 8 days, 37 partisans killed, 11 captured, 42 German casualties." He looked at Richter. 3 operations, 1,560 man-days, 78 partisans neutralized, 101 German casualties. That's 13 German casualties per successful partisan engagement. The mathematics are killing us. My proposal requires 180 men for 2 days, sir. 360 man-days. Predicted German casualties, 0. Expected partisan captures, 300 to 400. The mathematics reverse. Silence in the room. 4 officers calculating acceptable risk with other men's lives. Krebs broke it. This is unorthodox. Yes, sir. Violates every conventional military doctrine. Yes, sir. Could be considered dishonorable. Richter hesitated. Yes, sir, it could. But I've written 114 death notification letters in the past 6 months. 14 from my own supply unit. 100 from infantry companies we support. I consider those 114 deaths more dishonorable than temporary illness inflicted on enemy combatants. Vogel studied Richter for 10 seconds, then made his decision. 1 test operation. If it fails, you're reassigned to inventory duty in Warsaw. Understood? Understood, sir. If it succeeds, I forward your method to General Major von Gottberg with recommendation for theater-wide implementation. But success means 0 German casualties and complete partisan unit capture. Anything less is failure. Clear? Clear, sir. Then brief Hauptmann Steiner on intelligence requirements. You have 5 days to prepare. Operation executes September 20th. Richter saluted, walked out of headquarters with the weight of 180 lives, depending on whether starving men would eat spoiled meat. Operational preparation. September 15th through 19th. Richter slept an average of 4 hours nightly. The rest of the time, planning. Hauptmann Steiner provided intelligence on Partisan Brigade 128. Estimated strength, 380 to 420 fighters. Command structure. Commissar Dmitry Volkov, age 38, former Red Army captain who'd escaped encirclement near Smolensk in 1941. Deputy Commander. Major Anatoly Sokolov, veteran of the Finnish Winter War. Political officer. Kapitan Yuri Petrov, NKVD background, ideologically reliable, tactically competent. Camp location, 22 kilometers northeast of Minsk, dense mixed forest, elevation 230 meters, natural, spring for water, defensible terrain. 3 escape routes mapped. Previous German sweep operations had located the camp twice. Both times partisans evacuated before contact. They had excellent early warning systems. Supply status, critical shortage. Last confirmed Soviet airdrop, August 2nd. That was 44 days ago. Normal airdrop interval, 21 days. Brigade 128 was operating on half rations and foraging. Intelligence intercepts included requests to Soviet command for emergency resupply. No response yet. Recent activity, 4 convoy ambushes in September alone. All targeted food supplies. August 28th. Bread convoy, 6 trucks stolen. September 3rd. Meat and vegetable convoy, 4 trucks stolen. September 8th. Field kitchen equipment and rations, 2 trucks stolen. September 14th. Medical supplies and food, 5 trucks stolen. Behavioral pattern. Partisans aggressively raided any isolated convoy in their operational area. They hit fast, usually 20 to 40 fighters, took what they needed, disappeared within 15 minutes. They'd learned German response time. Standard German reinforcement arrived 30 to 40 minutes after ambush. Partisans were always gone by then. Richter saw the opportunity. Predictable behavior created vulnerability. He designed the staging plan with Oberleutnant Krebs. Select a convoy route, the Logoisk-Pleshchenitsy Road, known partisan ambush corridor. 23 previous attacks on that route in 6 months. Partisans watched it constantly. Load 6 Opel Blitz trucks with spoiled rations exclusively. 3,200 cans of contaminated pork. 800 loaves of bread, unspoiled. to encourage consumption of the meat. 240 liters of ersatz coffee, unspoiled, to aid distribution and provide liquid for easier meat consumption. Make the convoy appear vulnerable. Minimal visible escort, 12 soldiers, 1 Kubelwagen command vehicle, standard convoy protection. But hide 160 soldiers in 8 SDKFZ 251 half-tracks 2 kilometers behind the convoy. Close enough to prevent actual partisan pursuit, far enough to not alert partisan scouts. The goal? Partisans attack, achieve what appears to be successful ambush, retreat with supplies to their camp. Germans don't pursue. Let them think they won. Timing calculation was critical. Richter worked with Lieutenant Hoffman on the medical timeline. Partisans attack convoy. Day 1, estimated 1,400 hours. Partisans return to camp. Day 1, estimated 1,800 hours. Food distribution in camp. Day 1, 1,900 to 2,100 hours. Consumption. Day 1 evening and Day 2 morning. Symptom onset. Day 2, 0400 to 0800 hours. Peak incapacitation. Day 2, 1,200 to 2,400 hours. German sweep operation. Day 2, 1,600 hours. 26 hours after initial ambush. Richter personally inspected every can of spoiled meat. Selected only cans showing bulging but intact seals. Opened 20 samples, tested the smell and appearance. All showed bacterial contamination consistent with Clostridium botulinum. None showed complete putrefaction. The contamination level was perfect, enough to cause severe illness, insufficient to be obviously inedible. He calculated bacterial load concentration, estimated each can contain sufficient toxin to incapacitate one adult for 48 to 72 hours. Lethality risk. Hoffman estimated 1.5% based on medical literature. With 380 partisans consuming contaminated meat, statistical expectation was 5 to 6 deaths. Acceptable losses versus combat operation predicted casualties of 70+ partisans killed. The ethical calculations still troubled Richter. These people would suffer violently. The illness would be agonizing. Dehydration, cramping, vomiting, diarrhea for 3 days. He was deliberately inflicting that suffering. The mathematics justified it. The morality remained uncertain. September 18th, 2,100 hours, Richter couldn't sleep. Sat in his quarters, writing in his journal. Tomorrow I'll learn if hunger is predictable enough to weaponize. If starving men will eat contaminated food because the alternative is continued starvation. If I'm right, I save German lives. If I'm wrong, I waste resources and look like a fool. If I'm catastrophically wrong, German soldiers die because I convinced command to try unproven tactics. The weight is considerable. September 19th, 0500 hours, final briefing. Vogel addressed the assault force, 180 men from 3 infantry companies. This operation is experimental. It may fail completely. If it succeeds, we capture 400 partisans without firing a shot. If it fails, we conduct standard sweep operation and probably lose 15 to 20 men doing it. Oberfeldwebel Richter's plan depends on partisan behavior being predictable. We'll know in 26 hours if he's right. The men looked skeptical. Using spoiled food as a weapon sounded absurd. But they'd all participated in failed sweep operations. All knew friends killed hunting partisans through forests. If this crazy quartermaster's idea worked, nobody would complain. Richter rode in the 4th truck of the convoy. Vogel had insisted. If the plan failed catastrophically, Richter would share the consequences personally. Fair arrangement. Richter accepted it without argument. The bait September 20th, 1943, 1340 hours. 6 Opel Blitz trucks rolled east on the Logwisk-Pleshchenitsy road. Visible escort: 12 soldiers in field gray, 1 Kubelwagen. Hidden support: 160 soldiers in half tracks, 2 kilometers behind, maintaining radio silence. Perfect ambush weather: overcast sky, light rain, visibility reduced to 300 meters, temperature 14 degrees Celsius. The road was mud and standing water. The trucks moved slowly, 25 kilometers per hour. Vulnerable, tempting. Richter sat in the 4th truck's cab. The driver, Gefreiter Müller, kept glancing at him. Oberfeldwebel, if partisans hit us, what do we do? We perform exactly as briefed. Return fire with blanks mixed into live rounds. Create impression of real resistance. Then retreat south on foot when I give the signal. Leave the trucks. We're actually giving them the supplies? That's the operation, Müller. Seems wrong, sir. Feeding the enemy. We're not feeding them. We're poisoning them. Müller considered this, shrugged. Fair enough, sir. 13:52 hours, approaching the kill zone. The road narrowed, forest closed on both sides. Perfect ambush geography. This stretch had seen 11 attacks in 4 months. Partisan spotters certainly watching from tree line. Convoy speed reduced to 20 kilometers per hour. Appearance: vulnerable, undermanned, valuable cargo. 13:53 hours. Tree across the road, 200 meters ahead. Convoy stops. Soldiers dismount to clear obstacle. Standard procedure: predictable, exploitable. Partisan gunfire erupted at 13:54 hours. 40-plus fighters, both sides of the road. Mosin Nagant rifles, 2 Degtyaryov machine guns, standard partisan armament. Muzzle flashes from tree line 100 meters out. German soldiers returned fire. The sound was convincing. Richter heard the difference. Blanks sound slightly different than live rounds. But only because he knew to listen for it. Partisans wouldn't notice. The visible suppression was excellent. Soldiers taking cover behind trucks, calling to each other. Realistic panic. Oberleutnant Krebs commanded the visible escort. His voice carried across the ambush site. We can't hold. Fall back. Abandon the convoy. 4 soldiers simulated wounds, dropped convincingly. Comrades dragged them south. The escort retreated in stages, maintaining covering fire, exactly as trained. Professional withdrawal that looked like desperate retreat. By 1400 hours, every German soldier had disappeared into the forest south of the ambush site. The trucks sat undefended. Engines still running, cargo exposed. Partisan response: 90 seconds of cautious advance, checking for booby traps. Smart tactics. Germans had used explosive-rigged vehicles before. But these trucks were clean, nothing but food supplies. A partisan officer, Richter saw him through binoculars from concealed position 200 meters south, inspected the cargo, pulled back tarp, examined cans, shouted something in Russian. Other partisans swarmed forward. They transferred cargo to partisan vehicles hidden in the forest. 3 trucks, 2 horse-drawn wagons. Duration: 18 minutes. Efficient, professional. They took everything. 3,200 cans, 800 loaves, 240 liters of coffee. Exactly as Richter predicted. Last partisan vehicle departed northeast at 14:14 hours. Richter checked his watch, started the countdown. 26 hours until sweep operation. 26 hours to learn if starving men would eat poisoned food. The waiting. 14:30 hours. German forces regrouped at rally point 4 kilometers south. 160 soldiers from the hidden reserve joined the 12-man visible escort. Nobody injured. Operation Phase 1, complete success. Vogel found Richter. They took everything. As predicted, sir. Now we wait. 26 hours, sir. Vogel's expression was unreadable. If this works, you're either brilliant or lucky. If it fails, you're neither. Let's find out which. Forces moved to staging position, 4 kilometers from partisan camp. Close enough for rapid response, far enough to avoid detection. German intelligence had partisan camp location from aerial reconnaissance 3 days prior. The camp hadn't moved. Partisans felt secure there. Richter established 4-man observation post 800 meters from camp perimeter. Gefreiter Koch, Obergefreiter Schmidt, and 2 others. Radio equipment, binoculars, orders, observe and report, no engagement, 1800 hours, OP, reported partisan convoy entering main camp. Visible celebration. Large fire built in central clearing. Richter imagined the scene, fighters gathering, officers distributing supplies, everyone hungry, everyone grateful. A successful raid. German supplies captured. Morale boost. Food at last. 1930 hours, OP reported canned meat being opened. Bread distributed widely. Coffee brewed in large pots. Estimated 300-plus partisans gathered for evening meal. The entire brigade minus perimeter guards. Richter sat alone near the command post. Couldn't eat his own rations. Kept thinking about what those partisans were eating. What it would do to them in 10 hours. The suffering he'd deliberately engineered. The mathematics justified it. His conscience questioned it anyway. 2100 hours. OP confirmed food consumption complete. Camp settling for night. Sentries posted. Normal activity patterns. Richter tried to sleep. Couldn't. Lay in his bedroll, calculating variables. What if bacterial concentration was insufficient? What if partisan digestive systems were more resistant due to chronic malnutrition? What if they'd shared food with nearby villages? What if Soviet medical supplies included antitoxins? Vogel found him at 2200 hours. Second guessing, Oberfeldwebel? Calculating probabilities, sir. The dice are thrown. We'll know soon. Yes, sir. But knowing didn't make waiting easier. September 21st, 0400 hours. First OP report. Unusual activity in camp. Sounds of distress audible from 800 meters. Multiple partisans moving toward latrine areas. Frequency increasing. Richter felt relief and shame simultaneously. Relief. The plan was working. Shame. He'd deliberately poisoned 400 people. 0800 hours. OP confirmation. Camp guard posts abandoned. No visible sentries. Sounds of mass illness clear. Moaning audible. Crying. Calls for water. Richter's clinical assessment. Botulism symptoms manifesting on schedule. 1200 hours. Peak incapacitation confirmed. OP reported 0 defensive activity. No armed partisans visible outside shelters. Camp effectively defenseless. Vogel made the decision. We advance at 1600 hours. 4 hours from now. Prepare the men. 1545 hours. 180 soldiers formed assault line. But assault was the wrong word. This would be a collection operation. Medical personnel included. 8 Wehrmacht medics with rehydration supplies, antiseptics, basic medications. Orders. Provide treatment after securing camp. These partisans would become prisoners, not corpses. Richter checked his watch. 26 hours since the convoy ambush. Time to discover if hunger was predictable enough to weaponize. Time to see what 400 incapacitated partisans looked like. Time to learn if saving German lives was worth what he'd done to achieve it. The assault force moved forward at 1600 hours. Through the forest, toward the camp. Nobody spoke. The only sound was boots on wet ground and the distant moaning of dying men who weren't actually dying. just suffering exactly as Richter had calculated they would. 1,600 hours. 180 Wehrmacht soldiers advanced through pine forest toward the partisan camp. No resistance. The forest was silent except for bootsteps and the low moan of human suffering carrying through the trees. First contact, 40 meters from camp perimeter, guard post position. The sentry lay on his side, unconscious. Vomit pooled around his head. His Mosin Nagant rifle rested against a tree 3 meters away, untouched. A medic checked vitals. Pulse weak but steady. Severe dehydration. The medic administered water with rehydration salts, tagged him for collection. The soldiers continued forward. 1608 hours, camp perimeter. No challenges, no gunfire. The assault force entered the clearing where 400 partisans should have been preparing defensive positions. Instead, 50-plus fighters lay scattered across the ground in various states of incapacitation. Some unconscious. Some conscious but unable to stand. Moaning. Begging for water in Russian. The smell was medieval. Vomit, excrement, unwashed bodies, sickness. One young Gefreiter, 19 years old, turned away and vomited. His sergeant steadied him. "Hold it together. These are prisoners now." No shots were fired. Wehrmacht soldiers moved through the camp systematically. 12 separate shelter areas. Partisan fighters lay in clusters. Some had tried to help each other. Groups of 2 or 3 huddled together. Most lay alone in their own filth. The tactical efficiency was absolute. The human cost was visible. Richter entered the camp at 1620 hours with Vogel. Walked through the aftermath of his innovation. A partisan stumbled from a shelter, made it 2 steps, collapsed. Nobody moved to help because nobody could move. 340 partisans were completely incapacitated. Another 40 were conscious but too weak to stand. 0 offered resistance. German soldiers began collection. Tag each prisoner. Basic medical assessment, water distribution, weapons secured separately, documents preserved. Radio equipment captured intact. This wasn't combat. This was processing. Total partisan count, 380, exactly within intelligence estimates. German casualties during the operation, 0. Partisan casualties, 0. Duration of combat, 0 minutes. The mathematics were perfect. The morality was complicated. Richter found the partisan command tent in the camp's center. Canvas structure, 12 meters by 8 meters. Inside, Commissar Dmitry Volkov, age 38, former Red Army captain, brigade commander. He lay on a cot, conscious but unable to stand, severe dehydration evident, muscle weakness. His eyes tracked Richter as he entered. Volkov spoke in Russian. Richter didn't understand the language but recognized the tone. Accusation. Volkov repeated it. Otravlenaya yeda. Poisoned food. A German interpreter translated. He says you poisoned the food. Richter looked at Volkov. Wanted to explain it wasn't poison, just spoilage. Wanted to justify the method. Wanted to claim moral superiority because spoiled food didn't kill like bullets did. But Volkov's eyes held no interest in justification. Just recognition. He understood exactly what had been done. Hunger weaponized. Desperation exploited. Tactical victory through biological warfare. Richter said nothing, turned and left the tent. The intelligence collection began immediately. Hauptmann Steiner and his staff moved through the command tent. Maps showing partisan operational areas across 300 square kilometers. Documents detailing Soviet airdrop schedules for the next 6 weeks. Radio codes and call signs. Supply requisition forms naming collaborators in 14 villages. Weapon inventory lists. personnel rosters with real names and home villages of 312 fighters. This intelligence alone was worth 10 standard sweep operations. Maybe 20. German forces had captured partisan operations intact. No documents burned, no codes changed, no leadership escaped. Complete tactical victory, weapons secured, 280 Mosin Nagant rifles, 43 PPSH submachine guns, 14 Degtyaryov machine guns, 6 50mm mortars, 8 anti-tank rifles, 12,000 rounds of ammunition. The partisan brigade was completely disarmed. Medical response? 8 Wehrmacht medics couldn't treat 380 patients. Hauptmann Hoffmann called for ambulances from the field hospital 8 kilometers west. Needed 20 vehicles minimum. Treatment priority, rehydration, stabilization, transport. The partisans weren't dying, but severe dehydration could become fatal without intervention. German medical doctrine treated prisoners the same as German wounded. Keep them alive. International law and practical intelligence gathering both demanded it. By 1800 hours, the camp was fully secured. Partisan prisoners sorted into 3 categories. Category 1, 120 prisoners requiring immediate hospitalization. Category 2, 210 prisoners requiring medical supervision but stable. Category 3, 50 prisoners with minor symptoms, ambulatory with assistance. 0 partisan deaths from food poisoning. Richter had calculated this outcome. Botulism was rarely fatal in healthy adults at the concentration present. Still, the confirmation brought relief. His method incapacitated without killing. The distinction mattered legally and personally. German casualty count: 0 combat casualties during operation. 1 Gefreiter sprained ankle during approach march. 1 Obergefreiter cut hand on barbed wire perimeter. Neither related to partisan resistance because there was no partisan resistance. Cost analysis: 6 Opel Blitz trucks, 1,280 kilograms spoiled rations, 180 men committed for 30 hours. Result: 380 partisan prisoners, complete brigade elimination, intelligence materials intact, 0 German losses. Standard sweep operation cost for comparison: 480 men committed for 6 days, predicted 70 partisan casualties, predicted 40 German casualties, minimal intelligence gained, partisan leadership escaped. The mathematics justified everything. Richter wished that made him feel better about it. Command reaction, September 22nd, 0900 hours. Vogel's after-action report reached General Major Kurt von Gottberg at Kampfgruppe headquarters. Von Gottberg commanded rear area security for Army Group Center. 62 years old, career officer, veteran of the First World War. He'd seen every type of military operation, read Vogel's report twice, called Vogel on field telephone. "Your report claims 0 German casualties." "Confirmed, sir. 0 combat casualties. Complete prisoner capture. 380 partisans in custody." Using spoiled food as a weapon. Oberfeldwebel Richter's method, sir, worked exactly as he predicted. Von Gottberg paused. "I'm coming to inspect this personally. Tomorrow, 0800 hours. September 23rd. Von Gottberg arrived at the field hospital where partisan prisoners received treatment. Found 380 prisoners in Wehrmacht custody. Medical staff reported 12 partisans in serious condition from dehydration complications. 368 recovering normally. Expected full recovery within 4 to 5 days. 0 deaths. Von Gottberg interviewed Lieutenant Hoffmann. "Your medical assessment?" "Botulism food poisoning. Sir, Clostridium botulinum bacterial contamination. Causes severe gastrointestinal distress, dehydration, temporary muscle weakness. Non-fatal in healthy adults with proper supportive care." All prisoners are receiving rehydration therapy. Prognosis is good. And the German soldiers? 0 casualties, sir. Von Gottberg walked through the hospital. Partisan prisoners lay on cots. Some slept. Some stared at the ceiling. Some talked quietly in Russian. They were enemy combatants yesterday. Prisoners today. Alive because Richter understood food spoilage better than most officers understood tactics. Intelligence reports were more impressive. Hauptmann Steiner briefed von Gottberg personally. Brigade 128's complete order of battle documented, sir. Soviet supply network exposed. 14 additional partisan camps located through captured maps. Names of 217 partisan collaborators in local villages. Soviet radio codes valid for the next 30 days. This intelligence normally requires 6 months to gather. And it cost us 6 trucks and spoiled meat. Yes, sir, and 30 hours of operational time. Von Gottberg met Richter at 1100 hours, found him in the supply depot, back to normal quartermaster duties. Oberfeldwebel Richter, your innovation worked. Richter stood at attention. Yes, sir. How did you know they would eat contaminated food? They're starving, sir. I tracked partisan supply raids for 8 months. Calculated their caloric intake at approximately 1,000 calories daily. That's below starvation threshold. Hungry men don't check food quality. They eat whatever is available. And you knew the spoilage wouldn't kill them. Calculated acceptable risk, sir. Medical literature on botulism poisoning indicates lethality rate under 2% in healthy adults. I determined that temporary incapacitation with minimal mortality risk was preferable to combat operations with predicted 15% casualties on our side and 30% partisan deaths. Von Gottberg studied Richter. You calculated acceptable risk with enemy lives to save German lives. Yes, sir, that's my job. Your method is unorthodox. Some would call it dishonorable. Some would call conventional sweep operations wasteful when alternatives exist, sir. Von Gottberg almost smiled. I'm forwarding your method to Army Group Center headquarters. This operation will be classified as Case Study Richter. Other Kampfgruppen will test your method. If it works consistently, it becomes doctrine. Sir, respectfully, the method only works once per partisan group. After Brigade 128, word will spread. Other partisans will test captured food before consumption. Then we'll use it once per group, Oberfeldwebel. There are 87 partisan brigades in Belarus. That's 87 operations with 0 German casualties. I'll take those odds. Von Gottberg left. Richter returned to inventory management. Felt no triumph. Just grim awareness that he'd created something that would spread beyond his control. Replication, October through November, 1943. Case study, Richter spread through German rear area security forces. 5 operations tested the method in October. 3 succeeded completely. 2 achieved partial success. Partisan awareness was increasing, but slowly. Operation Gift Korb, October 8th. Kampfgruppe Jeckeln, 40 kilometers south of Vitebsk. Target: Partisan Brigade 64, estimated 280 fighters. Method: staged convoy ambush, 2,400 cans spoiled pork. Result: 260 partisans captured. German casualties: 3 from unrelated vehicle accident during approach march. Duration: 18 minutes of collection operations. Intelligence gained: Soviet supply airdrop schedule for Vitebsk region through December. Operation Holocaust. October 19th, 286th Security Division, Mogilev region. Target: partisan group, Orlov, estimated 180 fighters. Method: abandoned supply depot loaded with spoiled rations. Partisans discovered depot, assumed Germans fled in panic, took supplies. Result? 170 partisans captured. Partial success because partisan commander ordered food testing before general distribution. Only fighters who ate immediately became ill. Still effective but lower incapacitation rate than predicted. The pattern emerged quickly. First operations achieved 95% effectiveness. By Operation 5, 60% effectiveness. Partisan command was learning, slowly but inevitably. Soviet radio intercepts, October 24th. German signals intelligence captured partisan communication. German food supplies may be deliberately contaminated. All captured rations must be tested before consumption. Use prisoners or livestock for testing. Wait 24 hours before general distribution. Richter's prediction confirmed. The method was losing effectiveness after awareness spread. But even reduced effectiveness was valuable. Food testing required 24-hour delay. That delay disrupted partisan logistics, slowed their operational tempo, created hesitation and suspicion that weakened combat effectiveness. Statistical summary, September through November 1943. German operations using Richter method, 14 total. Partisan brigades targeted, 14. Total partisans captured, 3,800. German casualties during operations, 8. 7 from accidents, 1 from unrelated sniper fire, 0 from direct partisan resistance during collection operations. Comparative analysis, standard sweep operations during same period, 22 operations. Partisans captured or killed, 1,200. German casualties, 340. The casualty ratios were devastating for conventional methods. 1 German casualty per 3.5 partisan casualties versus 1 German casualty per 475 partisan captures using Richter's method. Army Group Center Headquarters issued preliminary assessment. November 12th. Non-kinetic partisan interdiction through food contamination demonstrates tactical validity. Method effectiveness decreases as partisan awareness increases. Recommend continued use where partisan formations remain unaware of technique. Anticipated operational lifespan, 6 months before complete countermeasure implementation. 6 months. Richter had bought the Wehrmacht 6 months of low-casualty partisan operations. After that, the Soviets would adapt completely. But 6 months saved perhaps 800 German lives. The mathematics justified the innovation. The price was 4,000 partisans made violently ill. Some died anyway, dehydration complications, medical treatment delayed, pre-existing health conditions. Estimated mortality, 42 partisans across 14 operations. 1.1%, within calculated acceptable risk parameters. December 1943. Soviet partisans now routinely tested all German food supplies. Effectiveness of Richter method dropped to 30%. German forces adapted too, staged multiple convoy ambushes, some with spoiled food, some with genuine supplies. Partisans couldn't determine which was which without testing. Forced them to test everything. Created 24-hour delay in all food distribution. Even when contamination didn't incapacitate, it disrupted. The innovation had evolved beyond initial concept. No longer about mass incapacitation, now about creating systematic doubt in enemy logistics. Weaponized uncertainty. Richter hadn't anticipated this adaptation. Tactical innovations developed lives of their own. The cost. December 15th, 1943. Richter received Iron Cross First Class. Citation read, "For development of innovative non-combat partisan interdiction methods resulting in significant reduction of German casualties and substantial intelligence gains." Ceremony at Kampfgruppe headquarters. Von Gottberg pinned the medal personally. Richter accepted it without emotion. Felt like being decorated for poisoning starving people. Promoted to Hauptfeldwebel, Master Sergeant. Highest enlisted rank. Reassigned to Army Group Center Staff, Tactical Development Section. His new job: teach other quartermasters to think tactically. Transform supply officers into weapons designers. Spread the doctrine of exploiting enemy vulnerabilities beyond conventional combat. That evening, Richter wrote in his journal, December 15th entry, I saved German lives by poisoning Russian stomachs. 3,800 partisans captured because I understood they were starving and would eat anything. The mathematics justify the method. Every captured partisan is one who didn't kill German soldiers. Every German casualty prevented is a life saved. The numbers are clean. The morality is not. I struggle with what I've created. Weaponizing hunger feels fundamentally dishonorable. These partisans fight because their country was invaded. They're hungry because we destroyed their supply lines. I exploited their desperation for tactical advantage. This is warfare. This is my duty. This saves my comrades. All true statements. None bring comfort. Partisan perspective, captured in interrogation transcripts. Commissar Volkov, November 3rd interview. The Germans turned our hunger against us. We trusted captured food because we were desperate. We had no choice. Starvation kills as surely as bullets. They understood our desperation better than we understood their tactics. German innovation is not superior weapons or better training. It is understanding our weakness and exploiting it without mercy. Soviet partisan command responded with fury. Radio intercepts showed anger at being psychologically outmaneuvered. The contaminated food operations humiliated Soviet partisan leadership more than combat defeats did. Being shot was honorable. Being poisoned through your own desperation was degrading. Unintended consequences emerged. Partisan units became suspicious of all German supplies. Even uncontaminated food was rejected out of caution. Created food crisis for partisan forces beyond what German interdiction achieved through conventional means. Some partisan units disbanded due to starvation rather than combat pressure. Richter's method didn't just capture partisans. It destroyed partisan trust in their own supply chains. Psychological impact extended far beyond physical incapacitation. Richter's personal toll accumulated. Stopped sleeping well after the September operation. Saw faces of incapacitated partisans in his mind. Young fighters, teenagers some of them, lying in their own filth because he deliberately fed them contaminated meat. The fact that he'd saved German lives was undeniable. The fact that the method felt dishonorable was equally undeniable. Both truths existed simultaneously without resolution. December 20th, Richter wrote his wife Anna, described his promotion, his medal, didn't describe how he earned them. I found a way to save our men's lives. The method works, but costs something I cannot explain in a letter. Perhaps I will tell you when I come home, if I come home. The war continues. We do what is necessary. Necessity does not equal honor. I understand that now. Anna's response arrived January 8th, 1944. Whatever you did, Klaus, I know you did it to save lives. You are a good man in a terrible situation. Do not let the war take that from you. Come home to us. The children ask about you constantly. We need you here more than the army needs you there. But the army did need him. His innovation had saved 800 German lives in 4 months. The mathematics were undeniable. Personal morality was irrelevant compared to tactical effectiveness. Richter would continue serving, continue teaching his method, continue weaponizing hunger until the Soviets adapted completely or the war ended. Whichever came first. January 15, 1944. Army Group Center formalized Richter's method as official doctrine. Designation: Non-Kinetic Partisan Interdiction Protocol. Training Manual, 40 pages. Author: Hauptfeldwebel Klaus Richter. Distribution: all security divisions and Kampfgruppen operating in rear areas. The innovation became institutionalized. Army Group North implemented the doctrine February 1944. Army Group South followed in March. Total German security forces using the method, 18 divisions. Estimated operations through war's end, 60 plus. But effectiveness declined steadily as Soviet partisans adapted. September 1943, 95% incapacitation rate. March 1944, 60%. September 1944, 30%. The Soviets learned. The window closed. Soviet Partisan Command issued comprehensive food safety protocols, February 1944. All captured German supplies required testing. Method: feed small portions to livestock or prisoners, wait 24 hours, observe for illness. If contamination detected, destroy entire supply. The protocol created systematic delay in partisan logistics. Even when food was safe, 24-hour testing period slowed operations. Richter's innovation evolved from incapacitation weapon to disruption tool. Statistical comparison proved the method's value despite declining effectiveness. Traditional anti-partisan operations, January through September 1943. German casualties, 4,200. Partisan casualties, 6,100. Casualty ratio, 1 German per 1.45 partisans. Operations using Richter method, September 1943 through December 1944. German casualties, 180. Partisan captures, 6,400. Casualty ratio, 1 German per 35.5 partisans captured. The mathematics validated the innovation completely. Personal morality remained complicated. Richter's war ends. Richter remained with Army Group Center through 1944. Trained 83 quartermasters in contamination methods. Coordinated 23 operations personally. Became known throughout rear area security forces as the Hungerkampf specialist. Hunger warfare expert. Promoted to lieutenant, second lieutenant, July 1944. Rare for enlisted man to receive battlefield commission. Reflected tactical value of his innovation. June 1944 brought Operation Bagration. Soviet summer offensive destroyed Army Group Center. 300,000 German casualties in 5 weeks. The front collapsed. Richter's unit retreated westward through Belarus into Poland. Partisan activity intensified behind German lines. Contaminated food operations shifted from offensive to defensive. Purpose: delay partisan reinforcement of Soviet regular forces during the retreat. Richter coordinated 8 operations while his unit fell back. All achieved partial success. Bought time. Saved some lives. The war was lost anyway. September 1944. Red Cross letter reached Richter in Poland. Munich bombed, July 18th. Allied air raid. Wife Anna killed. Children survived, living with Anna's sister in Bavarian countryside. Richter requested emergency leave to return home. Request denied. Manpower shortages critical. Every soldier needed. He wouldn't see his children for another 8 months. January 1945. Richter with 4th Army remnants, East Prussia. Soviet forces advancing rapidly. German logistics collapsing. The irony was complete. He'd weaponized hunger against partisans in 1943. Now his own soldiers were starving. German supply lines cut. Rations reduced to 800 calories daily. Richter managed supply distribution for a battalion that had no supplies to distribute. The mathematics of logistics always won eventually. May 8, 1945. Germany surrendered. Richter, with 4th Army remnants, Czechoslovakia, surrendered to American forces near Pilsen. POW camp, June 1945 through February 1946. American intelligence officers interrogated him about anti-partisan operations. His contaminated food method was documented thoroughly. American officers showed professional interest. Similar partisan issues existed in the Pacific Theater. The innovation transcended the war that created it. Post-war reckoning. February 1946. Released from POW camp. Returned to Munich under American occupation. Found his children, daughter now 11, son now 9. They barely remembered him. 3 years absent. Anna dead. Family shattered. Richter moved into partially destroyed house with his sister-in-law. Began civilian reconstruction. September 1946. Denazification Tribunal. Classification, Class 4 Mitläufer. Fellow traveler. No war crimes charged. His contaminated food operations were reviewed extensively. American and British military legal experts consulted. Finding: method constituted legitimate warfare within Geneva Conventions. Not poison gas, not chemical weapons, exploitation of naturally occurring food spoilage. Morally questionable but legally permissible. Tribunal cleared him. 1947. Found work with American Military Government Logistics Section. Food distribution management for civilian relief operations. The irony was not lost. Spent 3 years weaponizing food scarcity. Now spent peacetime distributing food aid. Good at the job. Understood supply chains better than most. Helped coordinate Marshall Plan food shipments to southern Germany. Saved lives through feeding instead of starving. Some redemption, perhaps. American intelligence maintained interest. 1948 interview requested complete documentation of German anti-partisan methods. Korean. War approaching. Partisan warfare concerns rising. Richter provided 400-page tactical summary. His contaminated food doctrine studied at Fort Benning Infantry School. Never officially adopted by United States military. Considered too ethically problematic. But concept influenced psychological warfare development through the 1950s. Richter remarried 1951. Maria, widow from Hamburg. Slowly rebuilt relationship with children. Daughter asked about the war once, 1952. Richter answered, "I was logistics officer, managed supplies." Didn't mention what he did with those supplies. Never discussed contaminated food operations with family. Some knowledge was better buried. The mathematics and the morality journal entry. December 1950, 5 years after war's end. I saved perhaps 800 German soldiers' lives with my method. Captured 6,400 partisans who might otherwise have been killed in combat. Did this by exploiting hunger, the most fundamental human vulnerability. The mathematics justify the method completely. The morality never will. I would do it again to save my comrades. I will never be proud of it. Soviet military archives documented German contaminated food operations extensively. Classification: fascist hunger warfare tactics. Soviet partisan histories included detailed warnings about captured supply testing. Method remembered as particularly insidious, more psychologically damaging than direct combat. Weaponizing hunger considered fundamentally dishonorable regardless of effectiveness. Western military analysis took different view. NATO studies of German anti-partisan operations during the 1950s found Richter's method tactically sound. Reduced casualties both sides. Captured intelligence intact. Psychological warfare experts noted the principle. Exploiting basic human needs created tactical advantage. The specific method wasn't replicated. The underlying concept influenced Cold War irregular warfare doctrine. Richter died 1978, age 69. Heart attack, Munich, West Germany. Obituary mentioned Wehrmacht service, Iron Cross, logistics management career, didn't mention contaminated food operations. That innovation remained historical footnote. Known to military scholars, unknown to public. His legacy survived in principle, if not practice. Modern psychological operations include exploitation of basic needs. Not through contamination, through denial and control. Food supply disruption remains valid tactic in irregular warfare. Richter's insight transcends specific method. Hunger creates predictable behavior. Understanding enemy vulnerabilities beyond combat capabilities enables innovation. The final assessment is complex. Richter saved German lives, documented. Reduced partisan combat deaths, documented. Weaponized human desperation, documented. All three statements true simultaneously. War forces impossible choices between competing ethics. Richter chose method minimizing death while maximizing psychological exploitation. History barely remembers him. His innovation succeeded briefly, then disappeared. Like the man himself, effective, troubled, forgotten. The partisans he captured lived to see Soviet victory. The German soldiers he saved lived to see German defeat. In the end, tactics matter less than strategy, strategy less than the fundamental morality of the war itself. Richter's clever method couldn't change that equation, could only postpone some deaths while inflicting other suffering. The mathematics always justified the method. The morality never did. Both truths permanent. Both truths unresolved. War's final lesson. Sometimes saving lives requires methods that haunt you forever.